Hello, this video has been made as a part of analytical assignment for the European Business Environment course at University of St. Gallen. The presentation is about in what ways will the potential reform of Europe's social models affect the strategies of firms located in Western Europe and their domestic and international competitiveness. The presentation will start with talking about the different social models that are in Europe. Is there a need for reforms? What can be the potential reforms? How can we use the non market strategies to develop the reforms? And how firms are changing the strategies in the Western Europe. So, first, let's start by talking about different social models in Europe, as from the paper presented by Andres Sapir about globalization and the reform of European social models. All European social models are different and majorly can be categorized into four different types: continentals, Nordics, Mediterraneans, and Anglo Saxons. Continentals are countries like France and Germany, which have strong labor unions, have collective bargaining power, are insurance based, have non employment benefits. Nordics are countries like Norway and Sweden, have highest level of social protection, have strong labor unions and highly compressed wage structures. Mediterraneans are countries like they have employment protection and early retirement provisions. Anglo-Saxons are countries like United Kingdom, which have benefits to regular employment, weak unions, and wide wage dispersion. So, why is the need to change the social models? In the VUCA world, there is a lot of macroeconomic instability. European economy needs to be sufficiently flexible to avail the opportunities and overcome the threats. So, this requires reforms both in the labor market and the social policies. So, as we see from the diagram on the left, the four different types of uh, social models can be made into a 2 by 2 matrix on based on equity and efficiency. So here we see that the continentals and the Mediterraneans are basically low on efficiency, but Nordics and Anglo-Saxons are higher on the efficiency. To overcome the inflexibility and efficiency which is non-sustainable, it is better to move from continentals to Nordics and from Mediterranean to Anglo-Saxon models. So this will mean that there is a lower employment protection legislation and higher employment rates. So is there a need for reforms? So I just try to collect data from the World Bank, and it is seen that on the graph on the left, European Union has very low expenditure on research and development as a percentage of GDP on comparison with the United States or even the world average. Also, the graph on the right shows how different is the unemployment percentage as of total labor force in European Union. Because of the VUCA world, the speed and intensity of achievements have been insufficient in comparison with the speed and intensity of globalization and technological change. More and more imports have been taken from Asia, particularly China and India, and there has been very less technological advancements in the state of Europe. The R&D spent in the European Union has been lower than spent as on an average in the world. The employment level is right now at a very high level. There has been an increase in unit labor cost overall, increase in wages and productivity, but productivity growth is slower than the wage growth. This is leading to higher production cost in the European Union. So, what can be the different potential reforms? There is a need for reform at the EU level as well as at the national level. So, each country needs to make its own reforms as well. One such reform at the EU level is about the single market program, which basically focuses on the product and capital markets. The national reforms can be the labor reforms, which will lead to increase in efficiency of the labor force. Talking about the single market program, it will lead to increase in competition at the home and foreign markets with better trade skills. There will be economies of scale which will lower the production cost. And there will be innovation and upgradation which will also reduce the production cost. Labor reforms will be somewhere like easy hiring and firing. This will turn the labor cost from fixed to variable and hence lower the cost of production. States can set their own rules and enforce them. There has to be some kind of meritocratic incentive systems to boost the performance of the labor. And there is a need for a research and development team in all sectors which will help boost the research and development in the European Union. Let's see how we can use some of the non-market strategies, starting with the 4 I's: issues, institutions, interest, and information. The issue here is about the labor reform and the single market program. The institutions which are affected will be the European Commission, Ministry of Labor in different member states, and the trade unions. And the interests, the other stakeholders, which are the member states, the firms in different member states, labor unions, different employees, and citizens of the country. Information that has to be shared would be about the labor laws and regulations, trade laws and regulations, different product standards and quality across different member states. The non-market strategies are important in this context since the opportunities in the VUCA world are restricted by the institutions due to laws and regulations. But however, I see that the complete shift from the continental model in Western Europe to Anglo-Saxon is not a very good idea. Hiring and firing, although is a very good and will create a lot of flexibility, but it also will demotivate the current employees as they do not have a job security. Also, as there is no fixed team, so it will affect the innovation, as there is no firm specific knowledge accumulation, and there will also be no firm specific training provided to these short term contract employees. The low loyalty towards the firm can also lead to leakage of trade secrets. As far as single market program is concerned, we'll have to require to set up standards and documentation about different quality standards that has to be set up. Single markets will lead to monopolies being formed, which may create a market failure. Lower tax collections by government due to short-term contracts will lead to lowering the revenue of the government. Strategies might have to change, starting with the automobile or automotive firms. One example that I have taken here is from Lind in Germany. It was an example where Lind decided to move to Eastern Europe in order to reduce its production cost. Trade union strikes a deal with the management to increase the working hours, more shifts and less pay for workers in return to guaranteed employment till 2018. Increasing working hours in the name of on-the-job training was being employed. It affects the morale and the motivation of the employees. It also affects the people working in the R&D with changing team members. I also try to look at the fast-moving consumer goods sector. Companies will have to adhere to the new quality regulations for each and every member states. Every country right now has its own quality standards. New innovations and cost reduction strategies will have to be employed in order to compete effectively in the single market. Supply chain and logistical supports have to be set up so that the right good reaches the right place at the right time. So overall, there is a requirement for a potential reform of European social models, and it will also affect the strategies of the firms in the Western Europe. But complete shift from the continental to Anglo-Saxon or the other way is very difficult. I think that there has to be somewhere a middle ground where you do not completely shift, but take up some of the benefits of the Anglo-Saxons, but also keep with respect to the strengths that the European Commission already has. Thank you.